we have the capacity to take, obviously, California, Nevada, and Texas.
So now you can be a UB attorney.
Yeah.
You can practically practice in 38 states if
Yeah.
you
Well, I
put some
can.
time
It's
into it.
my trial attorney. It's
Right, I
Nevada,
know,
but
but
yeah,
as
the
a
firm.
the firm, I
Yeah.
mean. Hello, everyone. This is Hamid Kohan from LegalSoft. We have a great guest here with us today with the LegalSoft podcast. Is Yosi Yahoudai from J&Y Law Firm. Welcome to our podcast today.
Hey, Hamid. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, good, good.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. It's a great studio.
Love to have a great conversation about your practice and
For
yourself
sure,
as much
for
as
sure,
possible.
For sure.
First question, what made you to pursue law?
Wow, good question. So, when I went to college, I went to UCLA, didn't really know what to do, where I was going, like most of the students. So I tried a little bit of everything. I tried science, and I didn't like the sciences that much. It wasn't intriguing, wasn't appealing to me. So my first year was mostly math and science. It was okay, but it didn't excite me. And then second year, I diversified a little bit. I tried some political science classes, and those were really interesting to me. It caught my attention. It kept my interest, and I started looking into, what kind of degree you could do with a political science degree. And naturally, of course, law came up.
Right.
So started taking some more political science classes. And then that summer, I worked for a PI law firm, not knowing that eventually I would want to do PI or that I would want to go to law school. It just happened to be that he was a PI lawyer. And it was an entry-level job, legal assistant, basic, but it opened my eyes to what being an attorney could be. I would go to court with him, sit on depositions, and I just found it fascinating. And I really enjoyed going every day, and I looked forward to going every day to work. And that summer was, a game changer. And from that amazing summer experience, I knew I wanted to go to law school to help people. And I just took it from there.
Nice. Good. When did you start practicing?
So I passed the bar in 2007. And I worked for a firm for about a year and a half. And then I went on my own by myself in February 2009, President's Day. So we're coming up on my 15-year anniversary.
Congratulations. That's a pretty long time.
Which is very crazy to hear me say that 15 years, 17 years total. It's insane. Yeah.
You look too young to be practicing.
Thank
15
you.
years.
I hope I always hear that. Thank you so much.
So that's good.
17, but yeah.
Yeah, 17 years, 15 years on your own.
On my own, yeah.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
So when you started the PI, what was the basic challenges of differentiating yourself from everybody else who's doing PI, especially in California? So when you came out and said, I'm going to start up my own firm.
Right.
What did you intend to do that it says, I'm going to be different than the average PI firm in the industry?
So honestly, those questions didn't enter my mind until I decided, or I came up with the conclusion that I'm going to be okay. Because I was terrified to leave my established associate position the week before. There was only like a week in between my previous job and going on my own. I was terrified. I moved back in with my parents. It was a big deal. So my questions were, am I going to make it? Am I going to make it? Was this a good idea? Is it going to work? Will I survive? So it wasn't until later on when I was like, okay, looks like it should be okay. It should be fine, that I started thinking about that. And that's a question that I still ask 15 years later. Is how are we different than all the other great, amazing PI firms in California?
Right.
It's a fantastic question. I think it's a question that entrepreneurs, attorneys should ask themselves every day. And it's just giving that best customer service, best client service. Something that I think sticks out about Jason and I is that we both have been in injury-producing car accidents that were not our fault. Thankfully, they weren't anything catastrophic. But, we still got injured, and we needed to get treatment, and it affected our life for several months. So we don't know maybe to the extent of what our clients are going through, because unfortunately a lot of them have very serious and some catastrophic injuries and unfortunately some wrongful deaths, but we do have a sense of the the pain that they went through, the trauma, the inconvenience, how it affected their daily life. So I can really relate with my clients on that level that, hey, I've been through this, and for the ones that have smaller injuries and accidents on the more or less severe side,
Right.
I can tell them honestly, I've been exactly where you were. Exactly, I know exactly what you're going through. I've had my car in the body shop for 4 months. Not having a car and having to, figure out I'm going to get around
Right.
with my rental expired and all that stuff. So that's how I try to differentiate between other people, is just to bring the real life, real
Right.
actual experience and relate to them. And
Yeah, relating to them is a big
yeah,
thing because that's the biggest client retention program also
yeah,
is to be able to relate to them and not just treat them like every other accident, accident happens kind of a situation.
sure. It's hard. It's a challenge,
Right.
especially when you're running a volume business. It's a big challenge,
Right.
but you got to do your best.
And your firm does other injuries than car injuries, car accident
Yeah.
injuries, like a slip and
So
fall.
we love premise cases.
Oh, really?
Love.
That's interesting because
I know.
a lot of people are
That
trying to
differentiates
stay
us.
away. So that's
So
wonderful.
yeah, like I wasn't even trying to answer your last question, but I guess that's one way. Our litigation department, I want to say 50%, if not more, are premise liability cases.
So for those who don't know, the audience who are not in the legal industry, could you please briefly explain what a premise liability
Yes.
case is? So
So liability, someone that's at fault, right? That's the word liability means. Premise is a location, whether it's a supermarket, a house, an apartment store, a building, a piece of land, a structure. And it means that there was some liability on the premise owner or on the premise lessor.
right.
So, for those out there for that don't know that term or are not familiar with personal injury, we take on cases against landowners or tenants, people that are leasing from the landlord, that are
Uh-huh.
running and operating stores, that they've created a dangerous condition that was due to their negligence or their employees' negligence that caused our client harm.
Great.
They're much more difficult cases than your standard auto v auto cases. Much, much more difficult in liability and other aspects. But we love it for the challenging reasons that it gives us. It gives us a lot of pleasure when we finally resolve them for good results. It's just that much more enjoyable.
Wonderful. So, can you give us one of those examples of stands out in your mind that the premise liability case that was unusual or didn't come in as a sort of like a solid case that stands up in your mind that you litigated it and you got positive results from it that stands out. So for people to relate, like everybody knows when you're in a shopping center, like
Yeah.
you're in the Walmarts and Targets and you fall down and because they provided dangerous zones or
Right.
unsafe areas and things like that. Do you have one of those stories where you like this one stands up?
Yeah, we've had many. Um, a lot of the interesting ones we have are these crossover cases. I call them workers' comp
Mm-hmm.
PI crossover
Right.
cases where the client was on the job. Usually they're contractors.
Right.
They're not W-2 employees of the firm or of the company that they work for, but you're performing work duties. And while they're there, there's some sort of dangerous condition caused by the construction company, somebody that's controlling the construction job. And we had one that settled just yeah in 2023 in the middle of the year for a mid seven figure case. And they were trying to argue that it was workers' comp exclusive, that that the only means of recovery for the client was through the workers' comp field.
Ah,
So they brought MSJ, and of course we fought it, we prevailed, and a lot of firms may have folded
right.
or just tried to settle for a nominal amount, something like low five figures, but we learned the law and mastered it, and got to know the exception to the workers' comp exclusivity rules. And those are the really interesting complex cases that we're proud of, because
Great.
a lot of firms, I think, And we tried to bring in some firms to help us out because it was such a monster case.
Right.
And I'm not going to name any names, but some of you know the top 2, 3 law firms in the state declined to take on the case.
Those are the most interesting ones
Yeah.
because I've seen a lot of cases being rejected by several reputable firms,
They're some of the best.
and then it goes to another firm and they have a huge win, and this is sort of like
It was a
it's-
monster one, yeah.
Yeah, so that's great. And for those attorneys who are listening in, this firm is very successful on the premise liability cases. So if they want to refer cases, I'm sure they'll be very happy to entertain a referral arrangements for those premise liability. Because I have a lot of attorneys who don't want to, they're not comfortable with, they don't want to do premise liability. They
A lot
just
of-
started doing MVA cases and so forth. So they're always looking for a good place to refer those cases and be able to help their clients. So
Yeah.
we usually ask them to seek out those firms and refer clients to.
Yeah. We're happy to help. We're happy just to talk, have a conversation. For those newer attorneys that are not comfortable doing it, you have to start somewhere. So we have a lot of smaller premise liability cases that we refer out. So they're more than welcome to reach out to us, and we're happy
And practice.
and refer those cases to them, and they can practice on those, and get better and better and work their way up to these more serious, more complex cases. But yeah, I would not start with a monster liability case. But yeah, I'm happy to mentor them, and it's my pleasure. That's how I started, so I owe it to the community to pay back. So,
That's a great offer. How about dog bites?
yeah, I label that under premise liability. We sign up, a good amount of dog bite cases every month, and when they come in, I kind of cringe because some of these photos are absolutely horrific. And I'm a dog lover, and my kids love dogs, and I get so worried as a PI attorney when my kids are around dogs because I know what they're capable of doing.
Right.
Yeah, there's some sad ones. There's some sad ones in there,
Yes.
but we have to represent the clients. We have to represent the clients, and the saddest ones are the minors. The minors that are the victims.
Yes.
Those are the hardest one to deal with. So, but yeah, we deal with them. Those can be challenging at times. A lot of times, the dog owner does not have homeowners insurance, does not have renters insurance. So then it's a case of, are they judgment proof? Then we have to do an asset search. We review it with the client in detail. Hey, this is what your case is probably worth. This is the range. These are the issues with the defendant. They have no insurance. So
Right.
like they literally have to pay out of pocket. The problem is they don't own a thing.
Right.
They don't own one piece of property in their name. They make minimal amount on salary. We can definitely get a judgment, but is it going to be just a piece of paper for you that you're
Yeah.
going to hang on your wall for 10 years? And that we're going to chase. So those are the difficult ones. Those are the very difficult ones. Those are the conversations I hate having. But we owe it to the client to do our due diligence. Can we get the property owner on the hook?
On the hook, yeah.
For those that don't know, we live in a strict liability state, but there is not strict liability against the property owner on a dog bite case. You would have to show that the property owner was aware, had prior knowledge of the dog's vicious propensities.
Right.
So that's a whole other discovery battle that you have to go through. So those can be very, very challenging and are very, very challenging.
Right. The emerging industries in the PI, things like electric scooters, which getting very frequently used, and people don't know their rights when they're doing the scooters.
No,
and,
they don't.
Yeah. So this is always one of those things, is educating the public first. First of all, like, you have a right. Like the dog bite was many, many years ago. They didn't know that they can actually, claim anything because neighbor's dog bite me, and what am I going to do about it?
Right.
So that was one. And now is electric scooters, which is a lot of young folks are riding them, and they fall, they get hit by the cars a lot. I've seen it. My son is go to law school in Vanderbilt,
Oh, nice.
and I was there a little while ago, and it was like crazy. Everybody's on these scooters, and I probably spent half a day on the scooter too
I
over
know.
there.
Remember the craze, but when it first came out? when the birds came out,
Yes.
how popular they were.
Right.
They were everywhere.
They were everywhere.
Everywhere.
And now they make it more focused. But around campuses, when the young
Yes, it's very
kids are,
college friendly.
it's very
Yeah, if I was still in
college-friendly.
college, I would for sure use that every day.
Do that every day.
100%.
So, what is your firm experience with this kind of accidents where, it doesn't matter if it's a city claim because they ran through a huge pothole that the city didn't
Okay.
fix properly, or they got sort of hit with a car?
This is a great question. It's a great question that during that craze where everybody was riding a bird or another electric scooter, we would get so many of these intakes come in. So if you're asking what I think you're asking, those can be very difficult cases. So yeah, we would have so many calls, dozens of calls a month of potential clients calling us, hey, I was riding a bird and I hit a rock and I fell off and I broke my arm in 3 places and I need 4 surgeries. The bird malfunctioned. It just stopped. It just braked out of nowhere. Just out of nowhere. I didn't press anything and it braked and I flew off and I have a brain injury. We would get all these all the time. So if they're trying to argue that something was wrong with the bird itself,
Mm-hmm.
there was a malfunction with the
Right.
scooter, then it became a products liability case.
Right.
Okay. And as you know, those are some of the hardest cases in PI. The number one rule, at least for our firm, for products liability, is if you're going to have a products liability case and you're going to litigate it, you must have the product. You have to have it.
Right.
How can you argue to a jury and to defense counsel that a product was defective if you don't have it
Right.
and test it and have defense experts do their testing and come up with their own analysis?
Right.
How are you going to prevail? Impossible.
Right.
You're going to get defense every time. Not one person had the bird when they called us.
Of course not.
Not one, literally, not one.
Yeah, they can't.
And they didn't know, and I can't blame them.
No.
If I wasn't in law school, if I didn't go to law school, I wouldn't have known either that. So I had to give them the bad news that I'm sorry. Like, I'm happy to help, but I'm happy to give it to my expert at our cost. He'll review it. I'll pay for it. You don't have to pay anything out of pocket, but we need the scooter.
Yeah,
I've
you need
got-
evidence.
We have to have evidence. We have to turn down every one of those cases. And
Right.
those are hard conversations to have because these people, these aren't soft tissue injuries. I mean,
No, I
these are
know.
bad.
When they fall off of
bad
that thing,
injuries.
I seen it.
I'm like terrified when my kids start driving these
Yeah.
scooters. Like I'm not even going to think that right now. But
Right.
yeah, like when I see little kids driving them without a helmet, my heart drops.
Yes,
I was a PI attorney. You like have different vision now when you see
because you see so many.
bicycles without helmets, just bicycles on the street.
Right.
Motorcycles are those are the ones that give me the most anxiety. But back to your scooter thing, if there was a dangerous condition on the street, okay, if there was a defect in the sidewalk where it wasn't a trivial defect and the tree branches have caused this massive 4-foot incline
Right.
sidewalk, and we can later prove that it was there for years and it was because of that the individual fell and injured, then yes, then we have a potentially great city case that I'll take.
Yes.
And I'll take on. If there was a defect, on a city or county or homeowner's property, I'll look at that, with lots of detail, and if everything else checks off, we'll take it. If the client got hit by a car, of course,
Right.
then it's not a scooter case anymore.
Right.
It's like you'll treat it as a pedestrian, motorcycle, bicycle case.
Right.
We're not talking about the scooter, but if we're talking about the scooter itself, you have to have the scooter. I don't want to speak for other attorneys, but I just don't know how any other attorney could litigate a product case without the product. So
Right.
you have to have the product.
Absolutely. So within that, I also caught that you do city cases,
Yes.
which not many people do. For those of you who don't know what that is basically when the injury happened, when the city government is responsible and has liabilities, and they can be proven to be causing the injury.
Correct.
For negligence, basically.
Yeah. City,
Not many
county,
people
state.
take it.
Nope, that's another one that a lot of
Because
attorneys don't take.
it takes too long. Who wants to go after LA County for
Yeah.
something? So I'm happy to see that you actually do that
Yeah.
because I've seen some great cases with the city
Yeah.
claims,
There's some great ones.
and people have patience, and they were able to recover greatly for their clients through the city claim.
Not just city, county, but we take
County.
federal cases too.
Oh, you do federal cases
Under the federal torts claim, yeah. So it's a little different with statutes there, but it's obviously still negligence. Yeah, so we'll take on cases against the federal government as well.
So you do a full service injury.
Yes, yes.
Any kind of personal injury. Do you also do workers' comp, or you don't?
We do not, but we have about 5 really great friends that we have that we really trust, and we send and refer our workers' comp cases to. All 5 of them are outstanding, excellent. They give our clients excellent results, and we've never had a dissatisfied client that we refer them to. So we won't, but we'll take care of them.
You take care of
by sending them to the right partner.
And you do take clients all over the California.
We cover all of California.
All California.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have satellite offices throughout. So.
Any other states in the plan to expand to?
So one of my trial attorneys is barred in Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
So we take Nevada cases. I just got barred in Texas in December.
Oh, congratulations. The biggest state.
So, yeah. We also now are covering Texas. That just started. So, yes. So we have the capacity to take, obviously, California, Nevada, and Texas.
So now you can be a UB attorney.
Yeah.
You can practically practice in 38 states if you
well,
put some time
it's
into
my trial attorney. It's
right,
Nevada,
I know, but
the firm.
The firm.
Yeah.
I mean, when I say you, I mean the whole firm.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. Wonderful. So what's in the plans in the next year or two?
Well, you just kind of hit it on the head. That was a good segue, is to expand into those 2 states. And we want to go to trial more. I have 2 fantastic, amazing, younger, hungry trial attorneys that have done a lot of second chair trials and some bench trials, but they're ready on the right case with the right client and the right facts and the right circumstances to try cases. So we'd like to, if the situation has merit, we want to try some more. We want to try a lot more cases to verdict, and we want to expand into those 2 other states as well.
Wonderful. At LegalSoul, we deal with about 1,000 law firms nationwide.
Amazing. I love that.
So
gotta make it 10,000 by next year.
Thank you. And within California, I've sure come across a lot of firms because it's a big hub of especially personal injury.
Huge.
So I get a lot of, I used to coach, and that's how I started.
Oh, yeah. What sports?
No, law firms.
Ah!
I used to coach.
I heard coach. I thought, because I used to coach my girls' basketball team.
No, I never gone to
That's
that route,
cool.
but that's where the whole thing started.
Is that how you started it?
That's how we started.
I
was
that.
mentoring and coaching mainly PI and employment firms.
Are you still are you available for hire?
No, I don't do the coaching anymore.
I would love
but
to.
I was doing a lot of the scaling from law firms with a 300-400 staff to the ones who just started.
Good job.
So that's
amazing,
that's where it was, and so I come across a lot of young folks who come in and say, "Oh, I want to be the next Jacoby Myers or Wilshire or all of these other name brands," and they think they can just get in there and do it and go fast and litigate and everything. So I sort of, for the first 3 or 4 years, if I'm involved with them, I don't let them touch a litigation. And I say, you refer all of this out, you watch them how to do it, and you learn from them, and then hopefully you can do it someday.
That's not how I did it, but I didn't have you back in 2009.
I said, those niggas, don't try this at home.
Well, yeah, I threw myself into the courthouse, so that was interesting.
You jumped in there. Well, you were able to do it successfully.
Well, back then it was different. I think it's changed so much since 2009.
Drastically.
I wish I had a video camera following me around for that year. Seriously. It would be amazing to go back and watch what it was like during that year. Right. I bet you wouldn't even recognize the field of law back then.
No, even like 7-8 years
ago. Even 5 years ago, it's changed.
Yeah, it was changed.
Imagine 15 years ago.
And now imagine 3 years from now, it's going to have a bigger change than we've seen in the past 10 years.
Because of technology and AI, for sure.
Technology and AI are going to change
1,000,000%
everything on that.
Scary.
So congratulations about expanding out. Because that's always been one of my things. Like, first time I got hit with this when I told them, why don't you do this? And said, I'm only licensed in California. I said, so what? Why don't you go get licensed somewhere else? Because this, California shouldn't be the only center. So I'm glad to see that you're moving forward with other states. And there are a lot of good states, definitely better than California to practice on.
I've heard
and expanding to.
Yes, there are several, at least several.
Several.
Yeah.
So, Expanding a law firm is definitely challenging.
Yeah.
And with the lack of resources and lack of staff, and especially with the firms like yourself, which is growing pretty rapidly, that's always been a challenge. From day one that I was in this industry, number one challenge to scale any practice was staff.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
lack of staff, lack of qualified staff.
Qualified staff.
And-
You can get staff. It's just qualified
Right.
staff.
Well, my thing was not just a qualified, a grateful staff.
Yeah.
To be grateful to help others as a sort of
And just and
firm-
good people.
good people.
Just a good person.
Right.
You know.
So that's when we sort of moved into trying to help with the firms to scale by providing virtual staff. And the COVID sort of helped a lot because COVID basically sent everybody home and says
Yeah.
life's going to be virtual.
Maybe the only good thing that came out of COVID.
Right. So we learned how the virtual works. We should definitely benefit from a lot of the virtual
Yes.
staffing.
You guys did.
we do that. And I know you also use virtual staff.
We do. You guys use you guys.
Wonderful. So how is your experience with virtual staffing?
Fantastic. Love it. Yeah, game changer. I hate COVID and everything about it. I think only two good things came out of COVID for me. One is Zoom, and two is you guys.
Thank you.
I'm serious. So this is, every time I cringe about COVID, I have to remind myself, okay, at least there's Zoom now, and I've Hamid. So they've been great. We just, we keep on adding. At first I was like, okay, we'll get one or two. And then it became 5 and 10. I think we're at 15 right now. And we keep on adding just because they're so efficient, great, all the benefits, no payroll tax and workers' comp tax and, employment issues or workers' comp issues. And they're diligent, they're hardworking, they love to work.
They're grateful to have a job.
They're very grateful.
Which has become very foreign to us here, especially in California, where as an employer, we're always sort of like, I'm grateful to be healthy and be live and everything,
Right.
but employees who have the same thing should be grateful to be there. So having virtual staff, that was a very refreshing for me, that
Yeah.
people actually love to do the work and so forth. And they carry on that attitude to the clients also.
Yeah.
So when a virtual staff answers the client call, the client gets a whole different experience than in-house staff, for whatever reason. But I think being happy at your job is a major thing about that.
What you guys do that's really great is you offer individuals a system that keeps them accountable. The number one challenge for me with virtual or work from home is holding them accountable and
Right.
making sure that they are efficient as they were if they were working in the office. And you guys provide tools that help us do that. So I love that you guys have helped us with that, because that's my number one reservation with virtual. But you guys have people like supervisors and people that look over them and check their work and make sure that they're working. So that's a really fantastic thing that we enjoy with your
Great.
with your
Thank
service.
you. Thank you. I have another question.
Sure.
I understand that you had a great settlement recently. That was it wasn't the typical case that the personal injury firms do, which is not a car accident or truck accident or things like that. So I want you to see if you can explore a little bit how you handled that case and what a strategy you had that made it successful, and you had a 7-figure settlement.
Yeah, that was one of our biggest settlements. It was a confidential settlement, so I can't go into too much details. But again, it was one of those premise liability cases that we
Yes.
talked about, and it wasn't your normal premise liability case where someone went to a supermarket and slipped and fell on a foreign substance. Our client was making a delivery at a work site and got hit by a forklift.
Oh, wow.
Which obviously is not customary. It was very unusual. And he unfortunately got severely injured. And we had to go into a sub area of premise liability law that we haven't done before. Get a forklift expert and have him educate us about the laws of forklifts and policies and procedures.
Right.
So that strategy was really interesting. Of course, they heavily disputed liability, so it was very expert heavy. And yeah, when you go into that, you got to get the right experts.
Right.
They call it the battle of the experts, and it's so true in a case like that. Is how good are your experts? How much can they help? How much value can they add? So the strategy really, you get to form that strategy with your experts as a
Right.
team.
How long did that take?
That was a 6-year case.
6 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
A seven-figure case, and especially premise liability
Yeah.
is,
A tough one, an
right.
unusual one. Those are the most fun, though.
Yeah,
I love
because they're challenging. They're
I
not
love the weird, unusual, crazy premise
right.
liability cases. Yeah.
Great, wonderful. One more question.
Yeah.
One of the trending thing is the rideshare,
Oh
which
yeah.
is the rideshare market is exploding and it's getting more and more common to have everybody use rideshare. The typical audience don't know that there is two type of a rideshare incidents or accidents that happen.
Okay.
Usually, if it's an automobile accident, it doesn't matter who is at fault. But also there was a case that I know one of the passenger of the rideshare was actually exiting the car,
Okay.
and the car moved faster before she closed the door on the car,
Okay.
and she fell down and injured kind of severely.
Sure.
And they weren't sure if they did something wrong or they have a case or there's something like that, because they said, okay, maybe I closed the door too late or something. So that kind of a case. So what is your advice with the rideshare industry, and what is the people's right as far as when the injury happens? Inside the car, outside the car, exiting the car, all of that.
Well, she was exiting an Uber.
Yes.
Okay, so the Uber driver has a duty to keep the client safe. Okay, and that means from picking up the client while driving the client and making sure the client has exited the car until the end.
Yes.
And the end includes closing the door and driving away. So if the driver prematurely drove away before the client safely closed the door and that caused her to fall and caused her injury, he 100% would be at fault.
Wonderful.
You always have to look at the facts and decide, did the defendant have a duty to your client?
Right.
And if they did have a duty, was that duty breached? Your analysis is up there. And he did. He had a duty to the client to make sure that she was dropped off safely. And it seemed like he breached that duty. So, I mean, right, without knowing more facts,
Right.
it seems like there's at least some potential case there.
I'm sure you guys do a lot of rideshare cases.
Yeah.
Because it's getting pretty common nowadays.
Yeah, everybody wants to do that. Yeah.
Everybody's doing a rideshare, of course. Okay, great. In the 2024, you have a lot of experience building and scaling a law firm from scratch, and you've been very successful at it. So if you were to advise some of these younger attorneys, or even the ones that are established for a while,
Yeah.
I mean, there is no such thing about how much experience is enough experience. What they should start, what they should stop, and what should they plan to do this year?
Okay. I would advise attorneys, whether new or older, to start calling each of their clients as soon as they get signed up. We have a growing practice. We're super busy, and it might not be feasible to call all your clients on day one. But I think it's so meaningful if the client can hear from the managing partner, one of the owners of the firm, with a welcome call, introduce themselves, have the client hear from an actual attorney. I think it goes a long way. I think it adds so much value to the client.
Absolutely.
And create such a great experience for them. Be like, wow, the attorney called me.
That's huge nowadays.
The attorney called me on day one. That's
Absolutely.
amazing. And I bet you if they went and told their friends, most of them would say,
I don't have time to do that.
That didn't happen. Oh, no, I'm talking about
the client.
Other client.
Yeah.
Oh, that, I bet that's not.
They wouldn't even say, I don't know who my attorney is.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But so that's what I would say to start doing. Call the clients early on. Do that initial call with the client. It will go a long way to creating a rapport. And especially if it's going to be a long relationship into litigation, you've planted a great seed that's going to blossom into a beautiful tree that will go a long way and add a lot of value to the relationship and to the value of the case and just everything about the case.
Right.
What I would stop doing, and give me a minute before you attack me. I think chiropractors are great, and they are. Most of our cases have chiropractors on them. I see a lot of attorneys start their clients with a chiropractor. I think it's better to start your clients with an MD. Ideally, if we're dealing with the spine, a pain management doctor.
Right.
If there's no spine issues and it's just an extremity, an ortho is sufficient as well. But I think if you start with an MD, like a pain management, and let him or her make all the recommendations, all the treatment advice, let that doctor dictate everything, I think you're going to get a much better result. and get the client much better treatment from the beginning, especially if they have more serious injuries.
Right.
And again, chiropractors are great. I'm not saying don't use them. I'm just saying don't start with them.
Let's start with them. Absolutely.
You know, if the pain management doctor feels like the client needs chiropractic or physical therapy, which 99% of them do, by all means, of course, let the doctor refer them to them. But start with the PM, start with the ortho, start with an MD. I think you'll see a lot better results. And what I would continue doing is continue monitoring your KPIs, your key performance indicators. I've learned a lot in the last couple of years about how important data is.
Mhm.
Data. You need data. You know, review your data on a daily basis. You know, run the 5 most important reports to your business on a daily, weekly basis.
Right.
See if your staff is hitting your KPIs. You know, is that case manager hitting the benchmarks that you want him or her to? Is your demand writer hitting those benchmarks? Is your settlement negotiator hitting those benchmarks? Are your litigators and trial attorneys hitting their benchmarks?
It sounds like you read my book.
It was free, yeah.
Because those are exactly some of the things that I said many years ago, is that a lot of the law firms are not doing and ignoring is operating without a KPI, operating without the deliverables, you know, not paying attention to the clients enough. They're always chasing for the next new client instead of paying attention to your existing and past clients. It's always like it's like a race to get the next one. And it's like, it's my first one or it's my last one or whatever. And they have thousands of cases in the process that they completed or they're still working on. And it's like, they look like I got all of these. So I need to go get 100 more new ones.
Yeah. It's kind of the what have you done for me lately kind of mentality.
Right.
Yeah. They fall into that trap. It's understandable. Yeah. You know, really use your KPIs. If you haven't started using them, that's fine. We didn't use them at one point, so we were in that boat. And you know, start using them. There's lots of firms. I'm sure you can help them. You know, work on those, create those, and continue monitoring those and really basing your decisions on those KPIs and that data. Be proactive.
Yes.
Don't be reactive, like a lot of people are. A lot of businesses are. So
yeah. Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. It's been really a pleasure speaking with you.
It was
today.
a lot of fun.
And hope to see you here again.
Invite me back. I'll be back.
We do chapter 2.
We'll do chapter 2.
Wonderful.
All right, great, man.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us in the Legal Self podcast. I hope it was informative for you and you gained some new knowledge from watching us today. And if you like it, please subscribe so you can follow with other episodes. Thank you.